don't know, you know. Oh, I don't know. You can't help but get excited. It's probably not going to happen, is it? It's not. But just let me enjoy this moment. Let me enjoy this moment that it might happen. Just let me bathe in the hope without any fear that you could go to someone else. I've watched the likes of Naby Keita go to Liverpool. I've watched Sadio Mane go to Liverpool. I've watched Dayot Upamecano go to RB Leipzig and then look like he's not going to go anywhere else. I've seen Valentino Lazaro's career after leaving Salzburg drop to the point where he had to join Newcastle. I've seen Hannes Wolf not get game time at RB Leipzig because of injuries and end up at Borussia Mönchengladbach and doing well. But if there is one player, just one Salzburg player that I would pray that Arsenal would go for, it was Jonathan Soriano. But other than him, it was Dominic Szoboszlai. Hello and welcome to the Gunner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, a show in which we react to the latest Arsenal news, to get your thoughts in our fantastic live chat, and of course break it down to the point where I end up crying and convincing myself that it's going to happen, and then as I say, just burst into tears because it might not. And what happens is, especially now that every single day of my life is focused around football, that you read up on these stories, and thank you to the tens of people that sent me the link, which has obviously led to today's video, because as you know, I'm a little bit of a fan, just a smidgen of a fan of Dominic, that that it means that whenever there is any sort of link at all, that I get about 50 people on Twitter sending me tweets about it, which is great, and thank you, because I genuinely didn't see it when it first came up. It's my day off. Friday is my one day off of the 7 days in the week, and I try and switch off a bit, usually, especially in the mornings. I've bought Watch Dogs Legion, which I'm looking forward to playing a little bit more of, so that's going to fill some of my spare time. But thank you to everyone that kept me integrated into the stream of news that was flooding out of Hungary this morning. So thank you ever so much for that. Hello, live chat. Hello and welcome this evening. I know Iron Cub, and partly you're the inspiration for this video. You were the first person to tweet me, so thank you. And let's just look at the story. This is the story on Sport Witness, which is an effective translation report of the information, the index, which is, as far as I'm aware from looking into it, a reliable Hungarian-based site. I believe it's Hungarian. I'm pretty sure it's Hungarian. I'm just going to check. Index.hu. Yeah, it is definitely Hungarian from the looks of things. Anyway, Sport Witness commented and done the article about it. And so let's break it down. Effectively, his agent, which is Esterhazy, first name. Where is he? Can I find out his first name? It's going to be further up in the article, isn't it? Yes, Matthias Esterhazy. I've probably butchered his name. I've actually reached out to him. Believe it or not. I mean, it's definitely believable. No reply as of yet. No reply from Matthias as to the legitimacy of the claims. I'm sure the quotes are complete. So I have reached out to him. I haven't got a reply back yet, though. Through the reliable means of social media. Anyway, let's have a look at what he said. There wasn't many comments. So they say that he's revealed that despite AC Milan's interest being re-established in the press recently, he will not be signing for the Italian side despite having been close to an agreement twice. Instead, he's likely to end up elsewhere. And on that front, Arsenal's interest is real, according to the agent, although he refused to disclose where the midfielder will end up. Index believe, though, he will end up staying in the German-speaking world, so be that remaining in Austria for another season or moving, of course, to Germany. So perhaps a move to the Bundesliga in January transfer window, suggesting Arsenal face a fight if they really do want him. His agent's comments would suggest that they do, and with Milan now out of the way, the winter window would be the ideal time to make a move. So, for anyone that is not yet educated as to who Dominic Szoboszlai is, I have left in the description a link to the article that I have written for 101 in our new series. I don't know if you've checked it out, but we're doing a fantastic new series on young players. In fact, why don't I just share it on the screen for you? I'm not going to scroll down the whole thing because I'd like you to read it. But we are doing an article series on 101 now, which you can find. This link is in the description. And we're doing it on lots of young players. I'm working on it each day now, pretty much, and looking into new players, getting expert insight on them. Effectively, it's a bit of like a tactical breakdown in written form across lots of players, not just Arsenal. And there are some players that I'm learning a lot about as well, which is great. And I think there's a couple that I'm learning about that I'd really like Arsenal to kind of go for. I probably will end up doing a few videos on them, but that is one of the great things about doing that series. So if you haven't checked out these profiles yet, please make sure you do. Christopher Fung says Szoboszlai will clearly go to Leipzig, Dortmund or Bayern. Probably. Yeah, probably. He will end up at one of those clubs. Iron Cub says Leipzig have so many players, I don't see why he would go there. I mean, other than the obvious link to the Red Bull sort of sister clubs that they are, they would need to move players on for sure. And whether or not he kind of would fit in right now with what Julian Nagelsmann wants, that is certainly something that we need to think about. Autumn Leaves says, hi Tom, is it ready for playing for Arsenal? Is a good question. Because ultimately he's playing in the Austrian League. And the Austrian League is, especially when you're a Salzburg player, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, and I'm a lover of Austrian football, and Wolfgang Gasperik, who of course has been on the show a couple of times now, previewing Rapid Vienna. He's a Rapid Vienna fan, and he came on to preview our game against him, and he'll be back talking about that game when we come to the second fixture. But he's been on talking about the Red Bull model, he's been on talking about Szoboszlai and our tactical breakdown, and he will kill me for saying it, because he's not the biggest fan of Salzburg, but yeah, for the Austrian League for Salzburg is quite easy. In fact, they win it countless back-to-back titles going back a fair few years now, and it means that they dominate every game they play in. Now, that makes like analysing a player quite tricky sometimes because obviously of how dominant a player can be for that type of team. And now if you move to Arsenal, it's a very different kettle of fish. You're not dominating games as much. You're still dominating a fair few of them, but you're not dominating anywhere near as much. You've got a greater competition. You're coming up against better quality opposition. Now, what I would say is then one of the best barometers to look at Dominic's kind of progression and performance is to have a look at how he does in the Champions League, and he's done blooming well. That's fair to say. Playing for Atletico Madrid, playing rather against Atletico Madrid, playing against Lokomotiv Moscow. He scored in both of those games. He didn't score against Bayern Munich. Berisha scored and Okagawa scored, and then they imploded and lost 6-2. I don't know if you saw that, but they were 2-2 right until the end, and then just had an implosion. But I think that he is, is in the short answer. I know I've come the long way around to answering your question, Autumn Leaves, but in the short term, and the short answer is yes. I have 100% confidence. And the confidence is based upon obviously seeing him. The confidence based upon not only his technical ability, but his physical stature. He's not small. He doesn't get shoved off the ball. He's fantastically technical. He's composed. He's confident. The next question comes down to where does he play? Because in terms of his position for Salzburg, he operates mainly skewing to the left-hand side. Now, I have all the faith in the world that he could play in any of the front attacking midfield positions, be it left wing, right wing, centre attacking midfield. And I think that he can play in that space behind the striker and play it really well. He's got a hell of a right foot. A hell of a right foot. And the way that he strikes a ball is unlike so many other players that you watch. And for someone so young to have the technique that he has and the way he strikes a ball, for me, it is unbelievably technically gifted and natural and just really lethal in what he's capable of doing. The next plus is, of course, the price tag. Red Chem 80 says, for that cost, it makes more sense to what Aouar does. Now, Aouar, you're looking at 50 to 60 million euros for someone that, how I feel, and from looking and doing a hell of a lot of research on him over the summer, because of course he was linked to us so heavily, from looking at the way that he's played since staying at Lyon as well. He's got, from the best of my knowledge, 2 goals and assists. He got 2 goals for the French national team in a friendly and a 7-1 win against Ukraine, in which France dominated. But other than that, it's not been explosive. I'm not sure he is worth the money that Lyon want. I really don't. If we got him, I still think it would be a really good signing, because I think he's got the potential to become one of the best centre attacking midfielders. But I just look at Szoboszlai, I see his consistency, I see the way he plays in the Champions League against big clubs, and I just think this kid's got everything. This kid has got the potential to go so far. Now, it would be very ironic if we ended up signing him and he flopped, and that can happen with anyone. Like, you look how good Pepe was at Lille and has come to Arsenal, and it hasn't quite maybe worked out the way that we thought it would. Although what I would say is, I saw a fun stat today that I think besides Lacazette and Aubameyang, no one else has registered more goal contributions since his arrival. So, I mean, maybe you'd expect that. But it's an interesting statistic for sure. You got the shirt already, Tom? Not yet, no shirt. But it'd be nice, wouldn't it? I kind of want to get a Salzburg one again. I've got a Salzburg shirt with Jonathan Soriano on the back, who I've interviewed as well. He's a really nice guy. But yeah, it's probably will happen at some point. John P says, can he do a job in the front three? He can, and he can play on the left-hand side. Now, the issue is that obviously he's most comfortable playing maybe on the left, and that is a position that will be occupied by Bukayo Saka most of the time, or Aubameyang most of the time. So, whilst I think the versatility of him is great, that's something that is definitely something that Arsenal... If you look at Pepe is so, like... I feel like he needs to be given more time in other positions on the pitch, but he's so skewed to the right. Willian, so skewed to the right. Bukayo Saka is more of a left-hand side player, although can play on the right. But most of our wide players are very kind of comfortable playing on one side of the pitch. And the difference between having them and Szoboszlai is you've got someone that would provide lots of cover for lots of positions, and quality cover, and the potential, of course, to become a starter and a regular in the Arsenal team as well. Let's have a look at some more of your comments. Victor Edwards says, Szoboszlai is Sly. I don't know how you spell... Oh, I thought you were calling him Sly, and I've realised that you just can't spell his name. If you can't spell his name, it's on the screen, Victor. It's right there. It's right in front of you. Would be absolutely fantastic. Tom works for Arsenal, confirmed. I don't. Yet. Maybe I'll get recruited. You never know. If you need a scout, I mean, I've called a fair few. I'm just pointing it out. That's all I'm doing. I'm just pointing it out. I've called a fair few. Nico F says, some say Szoboszlai is actually Tom's lost son. Christopher Fogg says, question, Tom. Who will pick up the check on your first date? This is getting out of hand. The amount of, and I have to say, there was a fantastic, we did a competition, not even a competition, just a fun game really, where we posted a picture of me out in the middle of somewhere, and people had to caption it, and some of the captions that were coming in were absolutely fantastic. Jeffrey Ebo says, Szoboszlai gives us probably the best midfield in the league from a balance perspective, akin to Liverpool. Szoboszlai, Partey, and mate, isn't it amazing how our midfield, we looked at the midfield before this season and we were like, we have categorically the worst midfield in the Premier League, and now we've signed Partey, and if we get Szoboszlai and with the form of El Neni, all of a sudden we have an unbelievable midfield. We have an amazing defensive structure. It's just going from step to step. It's just unreal at the end of the day. It's how quickly things can change just by adding a couple of players. And I feel that Arsenal are just 1 or 2 players away from really improving, really getting to that level where they can compete. And that's where ultimately our long-term goal has to be. So, yeah. It's as simple as that, really. Anyway, there is some other news today, which is regarding Arteta's press conference. So I want to quickly have a quick glance at that before we wrap up today's news show. So let's have a quick look into that. Now, excuse me, it's Friday night, so I've got a gin in front of me, so I'm going to have a quick sip. Very masculine of me, I know. Anyway, going into this, on the team news, so no, the players are not in yet. We will assess them today, but we didn't have any major problems, so I expect the ones who are fit at the moment to continue to be available for the weekend. So you can imagine that David Luiz is going to be back playing next to Gabriel, which is great. I want to see that. Also, what I would say is, again, Saliba not playing for the under-23s. I don't know if you saw it when the lineup came out. Smith Rowe played, if you didn't actually notice that one as well, which is quite interesting, seeing as he couldn't play yesterday, apparently, but could be in the under-23s. But Saliba wasn't in the under-23 squad. So whether or not that means he's being brought in to the squad for the senior side, who knows? If he isn't, you have to turn around and be like, why? Why isn't he in the squad? And what's happening? Because it's strange, isn't it? I'm finding it very odd. If he's not playing for the under-23s, is he refusing to play? Has he got a knock? We just don't really hear anything, to be honest. On the competition for places, drive performance, absolutely. I think the medium and long term is something we will benefit from. First of all, because the choices are open, the players have to raise their level. What they did last season doesn't count. It is what they are doing now, how they are performing, how they are contributing to the team. I'm really pleased that the players who haven't had many minutes are still fit and willing to perform like they did last night. And the fact that Arsenal now kind of have this competition for places is really important. You've got players pushing each other. You've got players that want to desperately get into the first team, like Joe Willock, who's putting on performances like we saw against Mulder, and it's fantastic. I mean, I personally think that Mulder had a great performance of trying to get into the Arsenal team with the way they played. I thought Mulder had a great game for Arsenal last night, to be honest. They scored more goals than our individuals did. So maybe we should give Mulder a shot in the Arsenal team at the moment. On Villa's form, it is a really competitive side. They have played some very different matches with different approaches to certain matches, having some big results against big teams. And after 2 defeats, they need a win as well. So they all show that right from the start. And the thing, we'll talk more about Villa tomorrow on the preview show, but they're such an odd side. Now, this is an interesting question that I wanted to get to, and that's talking about Emi Martinez. And Arteta says he had a career for 10 years here. It wasn't just the last 6 or 8 months. You have to look at everything he did through his time at the club. Obviously, it wasn't in my plans to sell him, but we gave him the chance because he deserved it. He performed really, really well, but we have to balance the books. We have to make the right choices in the market, and obviously I couldn't guarantee him being the number one. He's a very ambitious person. He has been working really hard, and he can see now that the opportunity is there. He's got the opportunity to play with the Argentinian national side, and when a player asks you to do that, I think you have to be open enough to tell him what you think about him. If he makes the decision to leave, you should try and support him because he deserves it for the way he has served the club over the years. And I have to agree with that statement. Like, if a player wants to move on, and a lot of people criticise Arsenal for selling Martinez. Now, I don't feel like you can criticise Arsenal at all. I will say that from this. You cannot criticise Arsenal for selling Emi Martinez for a simple fact, is that he wanted to go because we couldn't guarantee him the number one spot, and we couldn't do that. And you can turn around and you could say that maybe if we'd have sold Bernd Leno, then we could have done. But no one was coming in for Bernd Leno. No one was coming in to spend the money that would have been required to sign Bernd Leno. And clubs knew that. It wasn't a case of being, we're not interested because he's rubbish, because that's not true. The fact of the matter is that his value at Arsenal since arriving for £25 million has gone up. He has improved. He has been very good for us, Bernd Leno. His value has increased. He's got more experienced. Naturally, his value will go up. And therefore, the clubs that were going to come in for him, if any, were not going to offer that. And the clubs knew that, and so therefore nothing was ever, if there was any interest, published. I doubt that anyone really did come in for him because they would have known what it would have cost to get him. And that meant that when Emi Martinez turns around to the club and says, look, I want to be number one, when you've got Bernd Leno there, fit and ready to go, you can't turn to him and say, that's fine, you're going to be number one. It's just not realistic. It's just not realistic to say that. And when you're thinking about a keeper that then says, I want to go, I want to play first team football, Villa have come in, given a very good offer, you can't blame the club for selling him. You can't. You can't turn around and say the club have made a mistake because the player wants to move on. We've got a good offer and we've got a good keeper here already. There is nothing wrong with what the club did regarding Martinez, in my opinion, and I think it would be silly to say otherwise, is my view on it, personally. Let's go through a couple of questions before we wrap up. Norma Delic says, Tom, what are your thoughts on Arteta not playing Saliba when Fofana is doing a good job at Leicester and Saliba is more highly rated than him? They're two different players, Norma. They are two different players at two different clubs. And if you actually have a look at Leicester, Leicester's backline is ravaged by injuries. Arsenal's is affected by injuries, but it's not ravaged. There is no reason to throw Saliba in. But when you've got Soyuncu out, and when you look at the amount of centre-backs they actually have, they've got, what? Soyuncu, Fofana, Evans, and Morgan. And Soyuncu gets injured. Morgan is 36, and you've just spent 40 million quid on Fofana. Who are you going to play? It's so different. You can't quantify those two in comparison to each other. And I saw a lot of, and I'm not having a go at you, by the way, Norma, about this. I've seen a lot of people turning around and saying that Fofana's playing, why isn't Saliba playing? And I don't even think you can match them up and say he's more highly rated because, I mean, you look at the price tag that Fofana went for. You can't compare them. They are two completely different scenarios. And so therefore, it doesn't make any sense to do so. And then it's Leicester against Arsenal. And getting into Arsenal's backline, whilst I know our defence is comedic at times, it's a different kettle of fish than Leicester because of personnel, because of quality, because of the money that was involved. So, yes, I think that ultimately you can't use that as any kind of legitimate argument to suggest that Saliba should be playing. It's as simple as that for me. Patrick Colson says, should we play Mainsley against Grealish? No, I'd be playing the exact same thing. Bellerin's been great last couple of games. Bellerin's been fantastic. You can't knock Bellerin right now. So, or last game, maybe not. Well, he was okay against Leicester. It was just a shame about the result, obviously. But you can't knock Bellerin after his performance at Old Trafford. It was fantastic. Saeed says, Tom, should Arsenal sign Danny Ings? Very underrated striker, much better than Laka and Premier League proven. The reason for me saying no, Saeed, is because Danny Ings is 28, which means that his value is of that of a prime player, as in he's playing through his prime years. And if you do sign Danny Ings and you let go of Lacazette, in my opinion, you've not really progressed things too much. There's no guarantees that Danny Ings comes into Arsenal having had his chance at Liverpool. Not really. I know he was ravaged by injuries, but didn't really impress enough to kind of nail down a starting spot when he was fit. And I know he's doing very well at Southampton, but I think that's probably because that's where he's meant to be. I think that is where he's meant to be. I wouldn't now go out and say sign someone like Callum Wilson. A few years back, I was really quite keen on Callum Wilson as a possible option for Arsenal. I think he's a really good striker. But I just think that he's too odd. Danny Ings is definitely 28. I'm sure he's 28. If I am wrong, I'll hold my hands up. He's 28. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I thought. Trying to tell me he's 26. He's 28. But yeah, no, he's. I just don't think that you're looking at a new contract as well. From at the moment, I think Southampton would milk however much they could get. They don't have to sell him. So, yeah, I think I completely understand where you're coming from. I really do, but I just think no, not for me. And injuries is a big issue as well. Umar says, what do you think about El Neni's form? I think it's fantastic, mate. I think it's brilliant, and I think he should continue playing. Ken Rogo says, please speak about Arsenal's interest in Szoboszlai. Rewind the video, mate. Go back to the start of the video. That's where you need to go. We covered it for about 10 minutes. So go back and listen to that. Toby says, what are your thoughts on Darwin Nunez of Benfica? Should we go for him over Daka, Eduard, Jovic or Marlon? Darwin Nunez, I don't know much about him at all. Let me just do a quick transfer mark search for him. 21 years of age, Uruguay. Oh, he's been linked to Barcelona, hasn't he? He's the guy that's been linked to replace Suarez eventually at Barcelona. I don't know much about him at the moment. In his competition so far, 1 goal, 5 assists in the Portuguese League, in the Europa League. 3 games, 4 goals, 5 goals, 6 assists in 10 games for the centre forward, which is a good return. But I'm not gonna pass judgment on him, and I'm not going to say like I know who he is, because I genuinely before today don't have a clue. Don't have a clue on him. It's someone that I'm going to do some research on for sure, because he's getting linked to Barcelona. Maybe it's someone who needs to do a profile on. So we'll definitely get into that, and we'll learn a bit more about him. But I'm not going to comment on a player that I don't know about right now. Toby says Szoboszlai gives me those Juninho vibes when he takes set pieces. Yes, he certainly does. He's got 9 goal contributions, 11 games to Benfica so far. Nice. Nico says 220 viewers and only 40 likes. Get those fingers out and smash that like button. Yes, please do. Thank you, Nico. Christopher says, if Joe continues his current trajectory, is it possible he becomes Arsenal's Wijnaldum? Interesting question, Chris. I think that there's potential, but I think that's a lot of pressure to put on a player that, if we really think about it, and this is, again, Tom putting his critical Willock hat on, if we really think about it, it's very difficult for me to turn around and say that I think Willock's going to be a huge success at the club today or in the near future. I hope he does. I say that every time. But I think it's a big ask to start throwing Wijnaldum hype around him for sure. Daniel Robert, I'm not reading out that comment, but it's brilliant. Coop Dog says, Jobas, what is that, Coop? It's in the video title. What is Szoboszlai? What is that? Put some respect on the man's name. Seems very similar to Draxler. Do you agree? He's less two-footed than Draxler is. I think he's got a much higher ceiling than what Draxler had when he was at Schalke. I hope it doesn't turn out like the whole Draxler pursuit. But yeah. But anyway, come on, practice. I want you get some. I'm going back to my teacher days now. Get a bit of paper out, get a pen out, and do some lines. Dominic Szoboszlai, 50 times, please. I want to see all that. In fact, that's a fun challenge, isn't it? Fun. Everyone get out a pen of paper and tweet me at the Gouda Talk with you writing out lines of how to spell Dominic Szoboszlai, because you're going to need to learn. Because you're going to need to be sending these in. I mean, you could just add it to your dictionary on time, but that's what you need to do. That's your TGT challenge for the week. I want people doing lines of Dominic Szoboszlai's name. If you get it wrong, I'm banning you. I'm only joking. Daniel Roberts says, Walcott's had an awful shot for Southampton. I think it's really romantic him going back to Southampton. So it says, we need more than just one creative player. Maybe. Matt, you're treading a fine line. You're treading a fine line, mate. Right, and with that horrible comment from Matt, thank you ever so much for listening, people. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, as it always is. If you could drop a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Anything to plug? Yes. Always something to plug. A few things. First of all, the Modern Footballer magazine. As always, make sure you check it out. Fantastic stuff. My piece about Marco Asensio, my other footballing love, is in here, which I'm now not going to be able to find, am I? But it is in here. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. This is great content. There you go. Rise of Marco Asensio by me. So make sure you check that out. And it's on Get French Football News, which I know you all follow. It's on their Twitter page, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description for the Szoboszlai profile. International break coming up soon. As I said, if people wanted me to specifically cover some tactical stuff and you've got some ideas, throw some ideas in the comment section. Thank you, everyone in the live chat. You're always awesome, and you help support the channel, which I really appreciate. Any other questions, throw them in the comment section. I'll read through it and I'll try and reply to as many people as feasibly possible. Follow us at the Gouda Talk TV. Help support the channel, as you can see going off that way on the screen there, and you can get access to some exclusive content. Let me know who you'd like to see. I mean, if expert members, if you want me to try and get hold of anyone for a specific interview, I mean, be realistic. But yeah, give me a shout and I'll see if I can sort out some exclusive interviews. So yeah, 100%. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, smash that bell on the screen as well. It sounds weird. So you never miss a show. But other than that, it's been a pleasure to speak to you as it always is. And I'll see you very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.